Is called Blood Sisters. I do not have the elegance of wings, but let us take turns being the wind and the cloud that is moved by it. I'm only me, and you are only you. Let us ask not more. Every living thing has a mother. Sleek, womanly death will force the blood in our veiny corners out from darkness and other spots of hiding in our end. So let us be sisters in this middle time of earth and air. Welcome to another episode of Culture in Maine. We have an awesome show for you today. We have the Infidels, which is one of the coolest music ensembles that's going on in York right now. A cellist in a rock band? Trust me, it really happens. We also have some fantastic spoken word from not only a great personal close friend, because you know I like to hobnob with the stars, but just an awesomely talented individual, Soul Cry, also known as Jocelyn Kearse. And on top of that, we have the beautiful acrylic art of Lovey Reinhold Price, who is integral with Second Saturday Art Gallery, which is a great open mic venue here in York. And we also have the leader of that open mic event, Ron Vestal, who's a huge community activist and an incredibly influential person in York's art scene. We'll talk to them all today. But first, let's hear some of the Infidels.
Happy in heaven and jealous in hell, but the things which dreams are made will always slip away. So I'll give you the world in another life. For now I'll try and hide the way I feel inside, and I'm on my knees, and I won't let it be. I'm on my knees. I'm on my knees. I'm begging, please. I'm on my knees. I was feeling so down until you helped me from the ground. Now I cannot believe what you've done for me. You said it's almost over now. I just needed some rest underneath the red and blue sunset, reflecting from the sea onto our canopy. But it's almost over now. When the sun gives way to the moon, then we'll head back to the saloon. Is it really such a crime if you have another glass of wine and say it's almost over now? So share your heart with me, oh glorious Valkyrie. Help me from the ground before I start to drown, and say it's almost over now. Oh yes, it's almost over now. Oh yes, it's almost over now. You can start counting down, 'cause it's almost over now.
We're back with Ian Dellinger and Amy Mummert, who together, along with frequent guest artists, make up the Infidels. Okay, cello? Like, of all the instruments in the world, you were like, I feel like rocking out on a cello.
Oh, yeah, well, it happened just a few years ago. I was interviewing a lot of my friends who were in bands and doing a lot of projects with them.
Systematic research.
Yeah, well, no. But I would always be in the audience watching them then, all my friends up on stage having fun, and I was like, you know, I think I need to be up with them on the stage having the fun. That's where the fun is at. That's where the magic is happening.
Right, magic's happening.
So I need an instrument.
The music came first. The actual instrument came later.
Yeah, and kind of everybody plays guitar, everybody plays djembe, and I didn't know what to play, and it took me a year to figure out cello. I grew up playing the oboe, which is kind of a bittersweet sounding instrument, and that was my stringed version.
So you were drawn to sort of the mournful, evocative, emotional tones of the cello.
Bittersweet is happy, sad. It's both joyous and mournful, you could say.
So how did you guys end up hooking up?
Well, we've known each other actually for several years. But how we hooked up musically? How did we hook up musically? Was it your cousin?
Well,
How did that happen?
yeah, my cousin Mike Males. But then also I've had several cellists in my band and string players and other instruments.
So you're attracted to sort of a more unusual or a more complex layered sound.
Yeah, well, like she was saying, I mean, everybody plays guitar. Every band, it's
Right.
guitar, bass, drums. You know, so
Right.
my idea was like to bring something else into the fold, and you know, cello happens to be like my favorite. So
So how would you describe your sound, your type of music? We get people come on the stage that you know talk about they are members of a genre of music that people haven't even heard of yet. So how would you guys describe what it is that you do? What mood are you trying to create when you perform?
I usually tell people it's just like rock, but you know, we have different instruments. It's kind of got like a gothic aspect to it. Ooh. We've called it gothic folk music before.
Americana, a little bit of that.
Yeah, sure.
See,
yeah.
see, I knew it. I knew you would
Hints
have
of
a
that.
funny name. Now, and you are self-taught, right? You are not, you know, the product of the great studios of York County. You are, I learned how to play this on my own.
Yeah, I decided to learn how to play it, and I didn't really have the money. Well, I don't have the money for lessons whatsoever. And so I just bought a method book and thought that I would teach myself the way I'd learned to play oboe. But as an adult, E, 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 rest, E, 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 rest. That
Wasn't
lasted
cutting
maybe
it.
5 minutes, and I was like, you know, I'm going to throw the whole thing out the window if I don't switch this up. So I did it the way another friend of ours, actually Mike Males, he mentioned, taught himself to play guitar as an adult and listened to songs that I liked and would look them up as far as the fingerings, each one of the songs, and plod along, moving my fingers.
And by
with
looking up the
chords.
fingerings,
Yeah.
you actually, like you find this on YouTube and
Assorted places, yeah, YouTube's a good source for that kind of thing though, yeah.
they will just show you this is where you place your fingers to play this note or this chord.
Right, and there's a fingering chart that did come with the book, but then
Okay.
you listen to the music on YouTube. And I also taught myself the scales, and I'm kind of going at it from both angles.
So now how long did it take you to reach what you would consider proficient, to the point where you were comfortable playing
I'll
out?
let you know. I've been at this 2.5 years, I'll let you know.
Like, just because I'm playing and because people are loving it, so you just continue to learn and
Absolutely.
keep growing.
Absolutely.
We have a pretty good system. I'll write the chords out
Okay.
for the songs that we do, and she seems to pick it up pretty quickly. So
And the work that you do is original, right? You actually write the
It's all
songs.
Ian's
and
songs, yeah.
all Ian songs. And you guys have some pretty exciting projects coming up as the summer approaches. Tell me what you guys got going on.
well, actually, we're looking to book more, but in October, October 6th, we're playing a breast cancer benefit.
Wow.
We orchestrated one back in 2011 at Carey's Green, and this time we haven't decided on a venue, but we're talking with WellSpan, Apple Hill breast cancer, benefit sort of thing.
So where's the connection between the art community and the breast cancer community?
Well, you have to give back. It's all about giving back, and people have given you so much, so you have to spread the word and pay it forward.
That's amazing. How did you end up getting involved in the music community? You said you were already there listening to the music, and that, and I know that is not necessarily your roots. You were a well-trained academic.
Well, when I moved to York and had to kind of start my life all over again, I guess it was the open mic scene where I
This is
found my
pretty
friends
awesome.
and found people and met people that kind of stayed in my life, not the transient ones that you meet and that's it. Found the stayers, and they're still with me today. My friends I've met that way. Started with one open mic several years ago, in I guess 2007. And the open mic scene, as you know, has really opened up.
It's
There's
huge.
something you can
You're
hit.
exploding in York.
Yeah, you can hit at least one almost every night, and Saturdays as well.
So tell me, for each of you, what does your music do for you?
You can go ahead.
Oh, well, music to me is everything. I mean, it's why I'm here. It's how I express myself. It's the main part of life that I enjoy. So for me, it's just, I feel so free when I play it. I feel, just great when I'm playing and performing in front of people. So that's what it is for me.
Wow.
Similar thing, it's in that it's everything for me.
It's just everything. That pretty much covers it.
I had to start my life over as an adult about 10 years ago when I was diagnosed with a disability where I was a high-powered kind of career ladder set woman, and that put a quick stop to that, and I needed to find another passion, another focus, another outlet, all of those things, and music has really come to fill that void.
Music came to your rescue.
It really did. It really, literally did, yeah.
Well, thank you for inspiring me and our audience. And since you're such open mic aficionados, I know you can be found at the open mic scene on a daily basis. Do you have favorites where you guys tend to hit, where people can catch you?
Absolutely. We have to say for Shane Spiel, put a little plug in for him. Wednesday nights at the First Cap. Shane starts around 9:30, and Ian and I often do that one. And the other one, if you want to talk about the Cove.
Oh yeah, we've been going to the Cove for the My Roller Radio showcase.
Both great
lately,
open mics.
So.
And that is?
The My Roller Radio.
On what night and at what time?
It's Wednesday at 10 o'clock, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's,
Yep.
it
So
starts.
Wednesday night, you're going to be at the First Cap or the Cove most Wednesdays.
Most Wednesdays, yeah.
Awesome. I know I'm going to be there.
Great.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Woo! Bam! We dap here. Dap.
Oh, good.
Bam. The art that's on set today is particularly incredible, and it's done by one of my favorite artists from the local scene, of course, Lovey Reinhold Price, who's here with us today. Now, this is, you were breaking it down for me earlier, acrylic, less shiny.
Yes, acrylic.
Oil painting, more shiny.
Definitely.
And you work in acrylics.
Yep.
Dries faster,
Yep.
more flexible medium.
Yeah. Yeah, you can make acrylics into a watercolor medium, or you can make it into just acrylic medium, or you can make it into an oil painting type viscosity, and it's really, really flexible.
So
versatile.
now, how long have you been painting?
I started painting in like 2010, towards the end of that year, beginning of 2011.
Wow, so it's actually really, really recent. You have an insane body of work. I mean, I have gone to the Second Saturday Art Gallery, which you curate the art for that show, which is amazing. Every second Saturday, the whole furniture store becomes a massive art gallery with your art, with other local artists, and great reasonable prices and beautifully displayed. But you have a huge just amount of art, and it's not, you know, little postcard pieces, it's huge pieces.
Yep.
And you've only been doing this for a few years.
Yep.
So how did you get started?
Well, I was kind of going through an empty nesting syndrome type of thing, and my daughter is 27, she got married, and my son was 18 or 19, and he moved out, and it left me this huge room that he had over top of the garage, and I thought, well, I need something to fill my time to get my mind off of this, so I turned it into a studio, and I drew for a long time, but I had gotten away from that, and I decided, well, this will be a challenge. This will be a challenge to start painting on canvas upright instead of, and it was a big challenge, but I started out with abstracts and kind of experimented with different subjects. Like I found out quickly that I'm not good at portraits, and I get a lot of requests to do portraits, but that's just not something, and eventually kind of moved into a lot of seascapes, and did that for a long period of time, and then I wanted to expand from there. So angels, landscapes, you know, just different little small subjects, you know, whatever came to mind.
I've noticed a lot of your work, like the pieces that you have here today, which are really representative of what you do. You have, it's natural nature art, but there's almost something sort of haunting, creepy, fantasy aspect to it. Where does that come from? It kind of, I mean, it looks like it fits you. We've got that vibe going right here.
That's good. Well, it's just that I think that there's a lot, I have this theory that you can't really have art coming out of happiness. I mean, like some art But like I think
the breakup poetry is always the best poetry. That's so true.
It's a real deep emotion. Happiness is great, you know, but it doesn't inspire me as much as having a deep emotional feeling about something. And you know, the ocean really inspires me to feel that way. Just the nuances of it and the colors, the sunsets, the sunrises, and you know, that type of thing. And also being in the woods, you know, walking in the woods and you know, being around that type of thing. So mainly I just get my inspiration from whatever's around me, whatever energy of the environment is, because I love to paint outside, but it's not always possible. So
now do you paint from photographs, or do you paint from just images in your head? Do you paint from
both? In the wintertime it's harder to, you know, go outside and paint. I love the plein air painting, and I paint the best when I'm outside.
Cool.
But I prepare for that like early, like in September. So I start taking fall pictures and stuff. Then I'm able to integrate that in the house.
Oh wow! So you have a whole system. You're like, okay, time to start taking pictures as we go indoors, because the time is coming.
Yep. And a lot of times though, I don't go from a picture. I just, you know, put the brush on the canvas. I'm not really one to start like sketching.
So do you have like a process where you have to, you know, play certain music and light the incense and?
Yes, kind of. I start with a big bottle of wine, as everyone who knows me.
That's what I start everything with.
That's my greatest inspiration, and then I pick the kind of music that I think is going to fit the mentality. And like I said, it could be anything from like Jim Nabors, opera, ethnic, country, jazz, 80s rock. It can be anything, whatever's inspiring me at the moment.
And does that change the painting, like what you're listening to? Does it tend to come out a little bit differently depending on?
Yeah, if I'm interrupted in the middle of, and my fiance did this to me one time, I was in the middle of listening to John Lee Hooker, and he switched it over to Wasp, and it just totally destroyed my thought processing, and I was like so upset, and he just started he just laughed at me, and he's like, oh, I love it. He's a great supporter.
That's awesome. So. Now you have, as we were talking about earlier, not just your own personal paintings, but you have some other major projects going on, including Second Saturday Art Gallery. So tell me about the other stuff that you've got going on besides just your incredible work.
Well, you know, I did a lot of different venues over the years. I put stuff in different alternative venues, like my hairstylist salon. My brother has a tattoo shop, and I had stuff in there.
Nice.
Bistro 19 has some of my work right now. So I like to get it out there into different alternative venues. But right now, I've been concentrating on the gallery and making those events in the gallery successful for the past year. And the upcoming plans are basically, as far as that goes, to expand up to the other floors of the gallery.
Because it's a massive, massive place. It's like a warehouse that just has tons of floors and square footage.
Art Space, which was the group that came to town, that's, you know, I want to be very involved in that, and because that sounds like something really exciting
Talking
to be
about
involved
developing
in.
artist housing and residential studios at a low cost for local artists.
I see a whole Greenwich Village in York, you know, it's my vision, you know.
Well, York is so centrally located, and it's low cost enough, but the talent concentration's incredible. Like, we absolutely should be an art destination.
I think so too, and I think that it's just been exploding. It's been exploding. Yes. There's more galleries downtown. There's things I didn't even know even up to a couple months ago, or I didn't know about King's Courtyard or the Parliament or York
that
Arts
whole East
and
King Street
it's just
is really blowing up.
It's just I'm enamored with the whole local scene, you know. And just recently, I started hearing the poetry thanks to Soji's album, and I was like, wow, this is great, you know. I just want to get into there and hear these spoken word, because the emotions that are coming out of it. So including all of that, and we also want to integrate some of the other arts, you know, the performing arts with dance and things like that. At some point, acting. We want to do a benefit, hopefully, for like Dream Rights or something at some point. So that, and you know, for myself, I'd like to get myself into different venues that I haven't explored. And
now you said that about you like working in unusual venues as opposed to just traditional galleries. How do you think people experience the art differently in an unusual or unexpected venue as opposed to seeing it in a gallery space?
I think they're in a different mind frame. You know, I think they come in for a service, whether it's to get their hair done or they come in to get served food, And it might be something while they're sitting there and their mind kind of wanders, or it captures their attention, and they start refocusing. And I'm hoping that's what they do. If they're having a bad day, or if they're sad, or they're thinking about something more, hopefully that they see a piece of art that changes them somewhat, changes their attitude that day a little bit. I hope. That's nice. my hope. So
nice. Well, thank you for coming and visiting us, Lovey, and for sharing your art with us. It's just beautiful.
Thank you.
I need a Lovey Price in my home. I'm just saying Christmas is only
your home is beautiful.
Away.
I just saw your home the other day. It's amazing. That was one of my dreams, to have a house like that with the studio and art gallery in it, and that's incredible. Incredible. So thank you so much for having me on the show.
You're awesome.
I really appreciate it.
Come
Thank
here.
you.
You're just so genuine and warm and fuzzy. I just love you. Awesome. All right. Now, the mastermind behind Second Saturday Art Gallery, along with its fabulously glamorous curator, Lovey Price, Ron Vestal. So you are the man behind the whole store, the actual venue where Second Saturday is held. That's your shop, yes?
Yeah, I own Office Furniture Outlet, and Office Furniture Outlet is the umbrella for Second Saturday Art Gallery.
Now, I remember first hearing about Second Saturday Art Gallery, and I was like, okay, wait, an art gallery in a furniture store. What? And when I went in there, I was blown away. I was like, wait, they used all the little cubicles and they can hang art on them, and it actually makes a great display and creates an opportunity for lots of little mini displays. But you actually mixed the gallery in right along with the office furniture. Nobody looked at you and said, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard when you came up with the idea?
Actually, just the opposite. Friends have been telling me for decades that I should be using the walls. Friends who have galleries like Mary Todenhoff at Studio Gallery 234. Right. She's been telling me for 20 or 30 years I should be using the walls, and I've been reluctant to because I was resistant to having a lot of other people's stuff in my building, just the responsibility for it.
Sure.
In 2011, I started looking around and figuring out that it's getting hard to pay bills, and so I walked out into the middle of my showroom and I looked around and I tried to decide what assets I have that I'm not using, and what I came up with was I'm not using the vertical space. And I realized I could get more traffic in the building if I were to put up art. And so we did that, and then Second Saturday Art Gallery just grew its own life.
And you have a whole huge stage, and Ron Benway, who's a previous guest, hosts the open mic. You have musicians and poets and all kinds of things going on there. Has it made people in the community more aware of the space? Did it accomplish the goal you were setting out for?
Yeah, it definitely has. Second Saturday Art Gallery has grown a life of its own. It really has. It's
I hear people talking about it all the time.
It came to life. And awesome. Actually, I was speaking with Christine DeJulius of King's Courtyard,
right. Great
wonderful lady, and she asked if there was some way we could collaborate. And I stopped and thought for a minute, and on the spot, I came up with the idea of these whiteboards I had. So I told her, I'll bring you a whiteboard, and on second Saturdays when you're open during the day, everyone can decorate it, take a picture of it, throw it up on Facebook, and get a buzz going back and forth, and then we'll bring it down to second Saturday, and we'll decorate it some more, and then we'll shoot pictures and send it on Facebook, and we'll increase that buzz.
Very cool. Nice use of social media.
Yeah, and then it occurred to me that I had 3 whiteboards. So I brought one to Parliament, and I brought one to Philosophy Collective.
Right, so the whole East King Street block now has Ron Vestal whiteboards.
Well, yeah. Well, they're their own whiteboards. They've all got their own. They've all got their own markers. But the idea is that them and their customers and the people through decorate them, and then they bring them down to second Saturday, and then they can compete, and we can see who gets the most votes and who's got the coolest whiteboard. And it's really just bragging rights, and it's building a community out of 3 separate places, and it's building whatever buzz they have going on that day and transferring it back, the energy they build that day when they're open, and bringing it to us later that evening.
And I know community is probably one of the hugest motivations for that, because you have not just the open mic, but each month that you have it, there's a different charitable cause associated with it. Was that part of the initial vision, or did that come later?
That came as an improvement. We started out with the art gallery, and then Lovey Price threw in the idea of we need to have an event every month. And then it became easier to promote the event if you had a charity, because the papers really like it when you're donating the proceeds. It gets right in the media when you donate the proceeds. So we do that. But what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to do more regional and national charities, because we're advertising it in Washington and Baltimore and Philadelphia.
So do you get people traveling to come in and
we're
perform
trying
and visit?
to. Well, I'm not sure about performers. We've had performers from Philadelphia, but I'm trying to get people to come in from other areas to buy art.
Right.
See, I like the idea which you were speaking with Lovey about York becoming an artist community, and it will. It's in the cocoon stage, and it's bursting into a butterfly, and it's going to continue to do that for quite a while.
I think so too.
I like the idea of Second Saturday Art Gallery in one, and then also Second Saturdays as being known in the East Coast as you go to York, Pennsylvania on Second Saturdays, because all of the galleries are open. That's where I'm trying to go with it. And by doing a charity like Make-A-Wish Foundation, we can advertise that regionally, and people that want to support Make-A-Wish will come to our gallery and buy art.
And so what are some of the charities and some of the causes that you have coming up over the next few months?
April, of course, is Make-A-Wish. May is the Salvation Army.
Right, and they're even doing a Salvation Army fashion show.
We're going to be doing a Salvation Army fashion show.
Love it.
June is going to be an alternatives lifestyle, and we haven't found an umbrella charity for that.
But what a great, Gay Pride Month, and
right.
And that's a great tie-in and supporting that community. I love it.
And July is going to be the Cultural Alliance.
The great arts donators to the county.
And then in August, it started out as Parliament, but it might end up being Parliament, King's Courtyard, and the Poets. The Philosophy Collective altogether. I'm not certain
that
yet.
Wonderful East King Street block.
We
again,
thought the East King Street
growing.
connection. We'd get them for August.
Well, if there is anybody that is going to lead the community and start the Second Saturday art movement, I have faith that it will be you, Ron Vestal.
We're gonna make the East Coast come to York, Pennsylvania on the second Saturday of the month.
I love it.
We're gonna do it.
I love it. I have faith. Our video of the week this week was sent in by a viewer who just said, you have to check out this amazing violinist. And I thought, violinist, classical. It's even titled A flat, which says classical music to me, right? Well, the artist Black Violin is worth a Google, and not because he's a great classical musician, although he is, but because he's a fantastic performer and rocks out with that violin. Check this out.
Get ready.
Hello, my name is Jocelyn Kears, poet, also known as Soul Cry. The first piece I'm going to do for you is entitled Been So Good. I got my roots started out doing poetry in the church, so now that I'm re-engaging back with the poetry scene, I'll go back to my roots, which is Christ-centered poetry. Lord, you've been so good, even when I was not good to myself. You came and stepped in, Lord. You've been so good, even when I was not good to myself. You came and stepped in. You loved me and covered me at times when it seemed I was so unlovable, or at the very least unlovely. Your love is unconditional, even though I've never been religious or a traditional Christian, because you haven't given me a traditional mission. I have an unorthodox purpose to breathe life and love through poetic verses, but what hurts is people like me aren't always accepted in churches, and what's worse is I was often disrespected, finding out how it feels to be disconnected as discontentment sets in. And I know that you understand, because you were the cornerstone that the builders rejected, yet by you I was hand selected without regard for man's acceptance. I'm just reflecting, needing to be reconnected, praying for protection, crying out in repentance, but I still got questions like, why does it have to hurt, and why did it have to happen in the first place? It really made me hate me. It made me damn near crazy. I nearly lost my mind behind that, and I ain't fully recovered yet, Lord. See, I'm still trying to find that part of me that was lost to the degree that I promised you that I would never again preach your gospel, but I found that to be impossible. I mean, how could I deny you, and how could I have ever told you no when your word is like fire shut up in my bones? It just won't leave me alone, but I try to remain numb by smoking that spliff and that white rhino, that piff, and trying to stay blitzed when your grace and mercy covered me and you didn't remove my anointing or my giftings or the calling, but the prayers of the righteous kept me uplifted. Yeah, they kept me from falling into oblivion. So I'm giving in, surrendering, requesting deliverance from my willful disobedience. And since spending time in your face is never a waste, I'll see you tomorrow, Jesus. Same time, same place, in your name. Thanks, Lord, you've been so good, even when I was not good to myself. You came and stepped in, Lord. You've been so good, even when I was not good to myself. You came and stepped in. Thank you. Yeah. The second piece I'm gonna do is also Christ-centered poetry, but it's entitled Christified. Might be probably my signature piece. I'm crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live, yet not I, but it's Christ who lives in me. So let's get it. I exploded onto the globe fully clothed in sin nature, but destined to be a new creature since before the days of creation. And looking back in retrospect, I'm wondering if it was all a dream as I found myself awakening in Ezekiel chapter 16. I was uncut and unclean. I was unkempt and unseen. No one salted or swaddled me. No one cared or even took pity. I was cast out into an open field, fully aware of how self-loathing feels. I was dead and dying, polluted in my own blood, but God heard me crying and he said, yo, I'll tell you what, just live. And unto you my son I'll give. So I was rebirthed onto spiritual turf. He gave me his worth and then he covered me under his skirts. Where I was once naked and bare, he caused me to multiply, and then he grew my hair. He showed me that he loved me and that he truly cared. So I dropped to my knees instantly. I fell down right there at his feet, and so deeply in love with him as me and Jesus entered into a blood covenant. And it was all love until that moment came when he said, you gonna suffer with me if you gonna forever reign. So me and Jesus had an issue of debate when after justification came the the trials of temptation, and in the pain of separation from old friends and situations. Having been betrayed, then I cried out for exoneration from my enemies' false accusations. But God said, just wait, and he left me in that state. Then the very God that held me was the very God that nailed me by my feet and hands to the cross of my own circumstance. I took a deep breath and gave up the ghosts of my past that were haunting me and taunting me and wanting me to go back. And I was like, nah, I can't do that. So as I hung there, I thought I had finally done enough, but he pierced me in my side and outflowed water and blood. So just like from the side of Adam, God birthed his wife, we know that the church was birthed from the very side of Christ. So in like manner, or rather in like wise, this ministry of affliction was birthed forth from this side of mine. So as deep called unto deep, those depths called unto me and led me directly into a watery grave. At one moment, the culmination of 3 days. From that point, I was purposefully raised with the testimony that Jesus saves and Jesus reigns. Then I was led away into a secret place, an upper room with something like a sonic boom or a supernova type explosion. I received the dunamos from the Parakletos, who is known the most to be the Holy Ghost, so boldly I boast about him. I raised the chalice of obedience and proposed a toast about him. So the heathens would come, so the heathens would run right out of the fog, but yet and still back into the fog, so the heathens could finally taste and look to find that they could read God's mind if they would just read his book. Because the word of God is the thought of God, is the mind of God that was wrought by God just for us, so we could be completely free and justified, sanctified, purified, set aside, eventually glorified, or as I call it, Christified. Thank you.
In a word, wow. Otherwise known as, what a lovely job that was.
Are you silly?
I am silly. But I'm also the host of a fabulous TV show, which means I get to bring my favorite artists on here. And you are, without question, one of my favorite artists. So, Jocelyn Kearse, also known as Soul Cry. What's the story behind the performance name? I always have to ask this.
The story behind Soul Cry is actually Isaiah 58:1. When I initially started stage performing back in 2006, I was looking for a name. I was like, it's got to be something really cool. I opened my Bible and it was like Isaiah 58:1, which says, cry aloud and spare not. And then it goes on from there. So I was like, okay, Soul Cry, that'll work.
So now when people hear Soul Cry, do they often think about crying not necessarily as a victorious thing, but as more of a painfully related thing? Or is there a balance, a play between the both?
I think it's a balance between the both. Initially, a lot of my poetry was birthed out of painful places, hurts, and things of that nature. So in the name, there's, you know, a bit of relevance to the sad side of it, but then there's also, you know, the cry of victory, the cry of joy, you know, that sort of thing.
So now, as someone who has been writing for a great deal longer, what happened in 2006 that made you say, this is no longer just for me, this is to be shared?
I was actually pushed into, I won't say pushed, but coaxed into.
Forcibly coaxed.
And not even forcibly. I wanted to do it, but was very, very afraid to take the stage. And it required a bit of hand-holding. But Conscious, the poet, is actually the first person that I performed with.
A former guest?
Yes. And so he kind of, you know, helped me to get my wings and kind of fly. Yeah.
So what exactly is it that you want to write about and share about? Is the bulk of your poetry of a religious nature? Because I've heard you do some things that cover some very different topics.
Well, no, Christ-centered poetry was where I got started. Right. I was very heavy into the church, not to say that I'm not now, but, you know, it was kind of like my world. I've always been intrigued by God and the idea of God and trying to figure out God. And that sort of thing. Yeah. And, you know, as I started doing poetry in different church events and things of that nature, then I started doing poetry at different nightclubs and doing, you know,
Christ From the church to the nightclub.
You know, actually doing Christ-centered poetry in a nightclub. It seems.
Wow. Yeah, how did that play?
You know what? People really appreciated it.
Nice.
One of the things my pastor had told me at the time was, always leave people with Christ. You know, the psychology of it all, people remember the first thing they hear and the last thing they hear.
True.
So I would always start with this really braggadocious, soul cry piece, and then I would end with a Christ-centered poem, and kind of all stops in between, whether it's love poetry, erotic poetry, any other stop in between.
Wow. And now people can go on to CD Baby and they can look up Soul Cry and they can hear a whole CD's worth of poetry, correct?
As far as I know, they can.
Why, yes, they can, as a matter of fact. What was that process like, actually creating a collection of work and putting it out there?
It was beautiful. Actually, the Love Chronicles is what you'll find on CD Baby. That's my second CD. My first CD was my initial experience, but the second CD, I just had a ball doing it. I was able to go into the studio with Ralph Reel, David Forney, and from that, it just kind of grew to doing a feature on Paradise Movement's first album, and then, singing backup with this person and that person, and, it was a beautiful thing to actually go into the studio and record that. I was able to thumb through all of the tracks that I wanted, pick those tracks, and write specifically to the track.
So when you're writing, do you tend to have music or a certain rhythm that you're writing to, or does the poem come first and then you try to find things to fit around it in general?
It depends. I think typically what comes to me is a concept. Okay. And then if I can get into a really quiet space and have some herbal incense and some tea, and just create, sometimes with music, sometimes just with the quiet.
Wow.
What's so funny?
Oh my God, they hate when I do this in the middle of an interview because now it makes a horrible edit. All right, okay.
So Cliff's gonna be upset with you?
Cliff is gonna be upset with me, I'm sorry, Cliff. Okay. All right, gather my thoughts. I think
Mika's going to be upset with you.
Sorry, Mika. I'm sorry, babe. Okay. Shake it off.
Shake it off.
All right. Now, you have this incredible singing voice, which I know you do incorporate into your performance quite frequently. Were you singing before you were even writing poetry?
I was singing probably about the time that I was walking. So I'm often reminded by one of my cousins who used to babysit me that I was always singing soon and very soon.
Wow.
At like 3 and 4 years of age,
Nice.
Rocking back and forth on the sofa. So no, I've been singing quite a while. Fortunately, it's a beautiful gift that I get from my mother.
So you have the whole family is involved in the performing arts. Is that part of your inspiration?
Yeah, I think my mom is like probably my biggest inspiration, especially now. Maybe like a year ago, I thought that we were going to lose her, but now I'm so grateful to have her. I've written some pieces just about that experience, but they're difficult to finish, that sort of thing. But she's always been an inspiration. She too wrote poems and songs. She's actually a minister now, and she sings. I just love to hear her sing,
So now, when you're writing, what gets you inspired? What do you, I know you have your tea ritual, but how did you overcome that stage fright, and what makes you feel passionate enough that you feel like making this piece written and giving it out to the world?
Well, once I overcame my stage fright, I overcame my stage fright by actually performing. So once I did it that first time, Gerald and I were out, Conscious and I were out there, and after that, it was like, it became an addiction for me. It was just like the rush of being on a stage, performing with other artists, and just the conglomerate of art and music and poetry and all of that. So the motivation is actually in the doing for me. So the more I perform, the more I love to perform. The more I take the stage, the more I want to take the stage.
So what have you not gotten to do yet that you would love to? You've been singing, you've been traveling, you've traveled all over. You've been down in Atlanta, you've been out further away, you've done all kinds of shows here in York. What have you not gotten to do yet?
At this point, I have not written a book, and people for quite some time have asked me to write a book, but we are working on that. We are working on that as we speak.
Very exciting.
Yes.
And so what is the theme? What is the heart of a book? And how is a book different from performing out loud? Since you're primarily a spoken word and a performance-oriented artist,
Right.
how do you translate that to the page?
Writing poetry or reading poetry versus hearing poetry is a little bit different. When you're performing on stage, you can actually change the pronunciation of a word to make it rhyme with your next line. You know what I mean? You can completely alter.
rhyme.
Exactly. You can completely alter the word in and of itself. You can create a word, and as you're performing it, you can give that word meaning. On the page, it's different because you don't get tone of voice, you don't get voice inflection, you don't get facial expression, you don't feel the emotion from the page.
So does that make the word choice more important then? Because you don't have the opportunity to sort of convey the emotion or sell your meaning or your point through your performance?
Correct.
So what would you say, because I get this question a lot, what is the difference between spoken word and poetry? You didn't think I was going to throw that one at you.
Yeah, that was really random and a really good question. Is this my definition?
Yes, this is for you as an artist who does both.
Wow. I'm glad this is not Jeopardy. But the difference between poetry and spoken word kind of denotes more of street art. Poetry for me is what probably hails from the halls of academia. Whereas spoken word, I can't sit here and tell you I'm educated in the difference between Elizabethan sonnets and prose and
Is this
haikus
an iambic
and
pentameter or iambic pentameter?
Exactly. So I can't, explain all of that, but I can put 4 lines together, make them rhyme, and make it hot, and grab your attention and make you want to hear it. So that's another thing that I hope to do is become more educated in the art of poetry. So
if you had to give advice to a spoken word artist or performance poet that was coming up now, that was seeking to figure out how to express themselves, maybe was struggling with stage fright or struggling with getting their work out there and being not sure of it, what advice would you give them as a mentor?
Always start with honesty. When you write, always start with honesty. That's what works for me. You always start with honesty about what you're going through, honesty about how you're feeling, honesty about a situation that brought on a specific emotion. And the only way to get over the stage fright is to just go out there and do it. You have to be courageous. You have to just go out there and give the world your gift. There's my voice. My voice is a voice in the wilderness. And there are some people who will hear my voice and appreciate it. But the world needs your voice as well, because you will reach people that I can't reach.
Right. There you go. Well, I hope that plenty of people get to be reached by Jocelyn Kearse and find you on Facebook, find you on CD Baby, and I absolutely anticipate having you back as soon as the book is ready so that we can share even more of that with the world.
Absolutely. For you, Carla Christopher, I'll be here. Thanks, sis.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for joining us for another fabulous episode of Culture in Maine. Be sure to come back and visit us here on the Culture in Maine Corner every Wednesday night at 7 or Sundays at 3 on Channel 18, on WRCT.tv, or episodes available on YouTube. Just go to the White Rose Community TV channel and you can watch full episodes there at any time, any day, any place. Make sure you also follow us on Twitter at Culture in Maine, or friend our Facebook at facebook.com/Culture in Maine. You can get all the behind the scenes info, find out what all your favorite guests are up to, what's coming up on future episodes, or make suggestions. We want to hear from you. So if you have a video you'd like to air, if you have a friend you'd like us to have on, just send us an email. or shoot us a suggestion via our Facebook or our Twitter, and we promise to listen. So thank you for listening to us tonight. And a huge thank you to Amy Mummert and Ian Dellinger. Thank you also, of course, to the beautiful art of Lovey Reinhold Price and the poetry of Soul Cry, not to mention the community activism of Ron Vestal. We hope you all enjoyed the show, and we'll see you next week right here on the corner of Culture in Maine.